Rise and shine. Pour yourself a cup of coffee and tune in to Good Morning Aurora. News, weather, and really cool interviews. Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m.
News, y'all. Live news. Coming to you from the beating heart of downtown Aurora. So we got some things to talk about today. We do have news to go over. In addition to that, we also have the next initiative coming up with the Aurora Public Library that we're going to tell you guys about as well. It's Friday, January 15th, 2021. Blessed and highly favored. That's what and who we are. Blessed and highly favored. All right. So first things first, want to give a big shout out right now to a couple of downtown Aurora businesses. I want to give a shout out to Crystal House, located at 59 South LaSalle Street, which is Auto Row, historic Auto Row here in Aurora. And then want to give a shout out to Takalatlan, which is on the corner of, what's that, Downer? Yeah, Downer and Broadway. Really great restaurant. Also want to give a huge shout out to Tavern on Broadway. Tavern on Broadway. Went there for the very first time. They recently opened up. It was really cool. Tavern on Broadway is on Broadway, duh, and it's right across the street from the jewelry store. It's close to the corner of New York and Broadway. Really good bar, great craft beer on tap. I can't remember what the hell I had, but it was an IPA. It was really good. We'll definitely be back to Tavern on Broadway. Really cool place. Shout out to the owner. He told me his name, but I can't remember right now. Also want to give a huge shout out to our friends at the Cottonseed PME Cake Solutions in La Quinta de los Reyes. La Quinta really recently hosted a, I think, and to my Spanish friends, please don't kill me, but I think it's Dia de los Tres Reyes. The Day of the Three Kings, I think is literally what it translates to. And yeah, it was really cool. They did a toy giveaway for youth and kids. So that was very positive. Shout out to our friends of the Can Network, Mary Fultz. Good morning to the Fultzes. We recently interviewed Mr. Saul Fultz, who's running for Ward 7 Alderman. That interview is live. Check it out. And shout outs to the CAN Network, CAAN, which is Community Advocacy Awareness Network. All right. The time is 8:47 a.m. You're listening to Good Morning Aurora, the second largest city's first daily news podcast, coming to you live from beautiful downtown Aurora. All right. So next thing that we have to tell you guys about is that today is the day that the applications for the housing vouchers will expire. Hopefully you got that filled out. Now the deadline, the actual time deadline is noon today. So if you have not yet completed that process, please fill it out, otherwise known as Section 8. Okie dokie. So now, when we talk about the good things happening in the city, and we talk about coming out of COVID and everything, it's a very important conversation. Aurora schools are taking different approaches to the return of in-person instruction, with the West Aurora School District opting for a blended plan, which is like a mixture of both. And, a lot of people are confident with that, with the blended approach. What are your thoughts? The East Aurora School District is going to remote learning for a while. So both of those are different, but in the best interest of the respective constituents. Shout outs to our friends of Windy City Game Theater, the Can Network, and Treadwell Coffee. Good morning, everybody. It's nice, snowy. I wish it would snow some more, because I'd like a lot of snow. If it's gonna snow, it should snow like a lot. So get that snow up, get it up, get it up, get it up. Okie dokie. So the Aurora Public Library, we've been telling you guys about their schedule for quite some time and everything that they've got going on. The Aurora Public Library has been a great resource and a really cool tool in our community for a very long time. And when COVID happened, they continued a lot of programs and hosted a lot of virtual and online stuff, and it was very good for folks, and people were able to take part in that. So the Aurora Public Library, shouts go out to them. They're always doing really good stuff. All right. So the most recent event they had was the immigration and updates for COVID-19, and that was in conjunction with a world relief specialist that came out. The next initiative that's going to be taking place is going to be on Wednesday, January 20th, 6 p.m., and it will be a follow-up to MLK's Day of Service. Former political staffer Lily Rocha will cover the best practices to contact local, state, and federal representatives. You can learn how to make your message heard, and it's going to be contacting your state officials. Elected officials. You have to register for that, and to register, you go to the Aurora Public Library's website. Thursday, January 21st at 7 p.m. is the Civic Education Series of County Boards in partnership with the League of Women Voters of Aurora, How County Boards Impact Your Life. February 12th at 10 a.m., Tai Chi for the Chinese New Year. And February 16th, 7 p.m., Growing Your Business with LGBTQ-friendly practices. So shout out to the Aurora Public Library. Starting on the 23rd of this month, we will have, and going until May 22nd, it's Art and Market Aurora, a great gathering of vendors and artisans happening every second and fourth Saturday at Society 57. Safe and fun, socially distanced shopping with a lot of vendors. Come on out, save your Saturdays, and take part in something positive going on. And Society 57 is located at 100 South River Street. It's right across the street from the public library. Okay. Now, there's a lot of other news going on. I saw this, and I thought of you wonderful, beautiful people. Did you know that the Fox River, the water in the Fox River is the cleanest it's been in 100 years? Very cool. Shout out. That's a little bit of conservation. I almost said conversation. Yeesh. Conservation early in the morning. All right. So it's 8:52 a.m. Today is January 15th, 2021. We hope that you guys are having and continue to have a blessed day. The weekend is here. Let's have a safe weekend as well. Keep your eyes open to Aurora initiatives taking place by visiting the Downtown Aurora website, or Aurora Downtown, at auroradowntown.org. All manner of calendar events taking place here in our wonderful city will be displayed there. Shouts go out to our friends of the Aurora Downtown Board, Aurora Fast Print, all of that. All right. So I think we're going to get out of here. We hope that you guys have a good, wonderful, blessed, and safe weekend. And we will see you all back here Monday morning for the news and the weather. Second largest city's first daily news podcast is here. Check out the Spotify and visit our YouTube page and subscribe. And check out some of the episodes, all manner of content that we have. And we have a whole lot more coming. So you guys be safe, be blessed, and we are out of here. Peace.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
We're going to do a cheers up on camera. Bam, bam, bam. Yep. Sal, my brother, good to have you on the show.
Oh, it's just a blessing, absolute blessing to be here.
It's been a long time coming.
I know it.
Since the very beginning.
That's right.
So this interview is special in three ways. It's special in regards to 24 Rungs. Mm-hmm. Okay. Special because 24 Rungs already existed and then became the audiobook.
Correct.
And it's also special, the third part is because you have been instrumental with Good Morning Aurora from the very beginning. Yeah. So, from Zoom calls.
That's right.
Hey, so here we are.
I know, here we are. Dreams manifest. Yep. And it's real life.
You've been down with me since the beginning.
No doubt about it.
I appreciate you, man.
You can see your light. You can see your light.
So, before we get started with that, We find ourselves in 2021. Before we get into you and then delve into the audiobook and everything, we find ourselves in 2021. What's your disposition so far for the year?
Well, in 2021, I'm always going to be humbly optimistic, is because I know at the end of the day, my internal monologue is not audible to anybody else.
Right.
So whatever I have to perceive, whatever I have to see going on within this 2021, this 3D reality that we all agree upon, you know, what I see I see a lot of positives, because there are so many things that are so broken from simply just the cement.
Right.
I mean, you look in a lot of towns and a lot of cities, there are death traps in a place. Like one time I was in the city by UIC, and I literally saw a person in a wheelchair hit one of these bumps and fall out of the wheelchair, where literally having to get out to go help that person, and there's this giant crack in there, right? So when the bar is so low from 2020,
right.
it's almost like it could be 2021. But again, I say that the bar is low from 2020 because not of the things that happened, but because of people's perception of it. It became cool to hate on 2020. Like, you only get one 2020.
Right.
Like, you only get one this moment,
Right.
this moment, one this moment. It can change in an instant, as we see. You know, so with all of this, I feel like if there was a still pond and there's this giant ball coming from the sky, like a giant rock, right? That giant rock could be a number of things. It could be devastating. It could be the end of humanity. It's a meteor from outer space.
Right.
But it also could be the right batch of miracles from the divine, from the cosmos, that perfectly, when mixed with the Earth's water, once it hits, is going to make an entire explosion that might cover the whole Earth. But it's like that batch of minerals, when it hits, it's boom, it's crazy. The people that are close to the action, like, that shit is crazy. Like, you know what I mean? It's going to really be what we're seeing.
Right.
It's going to be this chaos. It's crazy. Who knows? Oh, I'm against my neighbor. He likes this person. I like this person. I like that person. It's like, wait a minute. Yes, I understand the ball that has been dropped is huge, but what are you going to do with the new energy? How are you going to perceive this new energy? Conversations that are happening might suck right now, and it seems like the hope is lost, and it's really pinning an inch. But at the end of the day, it's going to be better for every person who we have to coexist with. It's going to be better for them and their kids going forward. Now that these discussions aren't just pushed under the rug.
Right.
Get over it. It's fine. Move on. No, there's a lot of things that have been built up for a very long time. And of course, when they talk, the people who are really been hurt by these systems, it's easy for people who haven't been affected by the pandemic to say it's not a big deal to not. There's some people who are. And the lasting ramifications financially that could lead to more death, besides just the actual thing, could be pretty big. So to kind of downplay that in saying, oh, well, your struggle's not as strong as mine. Your problems aren't as big as mine. You don't know what I've been through. You don't know what it is. It's like, so that's what brings me back full circle to that inner monologue, to the point of, as I look to 2021 and see what this is going to be, it's like, get in touch with that inner monologue. Turn off the notifications on a couple of things. Like, stop scrolling for a little bit of time and listen. Not to me, not to you, not to some pundit, not to some guru. Listen to what your unique purpose is, because that power inside of us is the same power that created the universe. No matter what you call it, there is a power in this world that creates. No matter what that is, it exists within each one of us.
Right.
And that has no heritage, if you will, like based on this 3D, like from this country, from this place, this block, this, that inner piece is why there is a race, a one race of human beings.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? But it's been convoluted for a while.
Now, where are you from?
Me? Well, I'm from outside of Chicago. I'd say from some galaxy far, far away. I think from the Orion belt, because it's always been apart. But more notably, in the Chicago area. I grew up kind of always in the middle. I felt, I was so heavy in the city, so heavy in the I would say like close burbs, and then into some of the very wealthier areas where, I've always felt like Dante and his Inferno of being like going through the levels of hell and experiencing all this, because like I can't explain the vastness of experiences of like the poorest of poor to the richest of rich to the nicest, the nicest poor to to the meanest rich, over there, to then find some sort of balance, which is why I think the quest has led me to this exact moment having this conversation, is because for whatever reason, soaking all those experiences up, making hella mistakes along the way, can help people like you and us be these stewards. Like, you're gonna really look to someone who doesn't know you, and you're gonna put all your faith into someone who has great slogans, or are you gonna look at the people on the ground that are like, have to pay the same phone bill as you? I have to pay ComEd. I don't care what you look like. You have to pay the same bills to these different, people that you have to pay.
Right.
So it's either, you kind of, it's hard to define. I feel like being like, all right, I'm from this area, I can sit there, because then I also did a lot of time in Indiana and Ohio. Where it's like you spend some time when you really share your energy in places. It's like it becomes a part of you. There were certain parts that. Going through the process of learning different areas, and then the similarities of like growing up close to the Chicago and seeing what things are in the country and seeing things where they go into these subdivisions that I didn't know existed for a long time. So,
and how's life changed from the Chicago and the world that we knew of the 80s to now?
Well, I think there's been a fair amount of changes. There's been positive and negative. I think people in Chicago, in those areas, have moved. People have moved out a lot. I've seen different businesses start. I've seen different businesses brought up, meaning like different areas. You've seen some gentrification. You've seen some places like by 18th Street. In Pilsen, down that way, there was for a while, it was a certain way, and now it's kind of changed.
Right.
But it's weird to see it now because almost every change that was made is almost null at this point.
Yeah, funny that you mentioned that. It's like I've been going there. There's a place called Don's Grill on Western Avenue, right by the train, the metro, and I've been going there since I was a kid, and the whole neighborhood is changed now. It's But here's the thing: is that I take that question. I was going to ask: is that a result of gentrification, or is that simply just something that we see with the times? But I think that's definitely. It seems a little bit of both.
I think so, and I think that it's. It can be. You never know who's putting that stuff out, calling it as such. It might be a rival, real estate company that's saying it's something that it isn't, when it's really just people trying to build up their neighborhoods or do something different.
Right.
I just, from the city and going out, I have hope. Is where I have to interject all of these things, and every system that we have, is how are we going to fix this? How are we going to fix that? And I see that in these towns, and it has to be some sort of hope and compassion.
Right. So, tell us about the book.
Okay.
First of all, before we get to the book, what made you even want to write a book?
Sure. So I have been an athlete. I was a baseball player, played sports, coached. But my thing. I loved baseball. I loved playing. I loved being on a team and all that stuff. But my time was my writing. You know what I mean? And I'm a hip hop head. I always have been. You know what I mean? And I like rhyme.
Yeah.
I've always rhymed. Shakespeare just infatuates me because it's just it's why I never liked poetry classes when I took them in school and stuff, because it's Shakespeare didn't write in this person's style, A, B, C, D, D, D. He wrote Shakespeare, his own shit. That's what I want. I want to write, because I'm not writing, sometimes I feel for myself. I feel, that inspired word at times. I feel that, and it's I say that humbly, but hey, it's an interview about my book. I'm going to say it. I feel inspired when I write. And so so in one of my rhyme books in high school, I let a kid borrow my notebook. He's like, hey, he was coming in, he's like, I need a notebook. I had all my rhymes in it. I gave it to him, he lost it, got to the dean. And a lot of the things that were written in there was from different music, and stuff. It wasn't necessarily reflective of what I was doing. I was just playing around with lyrics and stuff. Well, there was some things in there. I got called in, my parents, I wrote all this stuff. I'm like, I'm sitting there like kind of in trouble, and I'm like, all this from just my rhymes? I'm gonna keep doing this shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can cause all these problems just because of the little rhymes I wrote. I'm like, I'm gonna always do this. I found the notebook, you know, and the dean found it, called my parents in, because there was, you know, things in there. But it was honestly, this was like, you know, Slim Shady just dropped. You know what I mean? So it's like we got all these crazy songs in our head. We got
They're like, what?
Mushrooms. Like, what are these songs? Like, what is going on? Like, you know. So, anyways, so there's some things that are in there, and I was like, man, and I thought to myself as I'm sitting in the dean's room, getting reamed out, probably grounded, like whatever the case. I'm like, but damn, there's power in the pen if these things that I know, even though I'm getting in trouble for it, like I'm not doing these things, this isn't part of it, I'm just exploring this genre because I feel inspired to write. And I continued on from there, and it was always my, you know, the thing I would go back to. And there wasn't social media and stuff, you couldn't really put it out there, but I always had this urge to like want to have an album, want to have my own book, like this is just what I wanted.
And then the anonymous prayer.
Yeah, so after 9/11 happened, I wrote this prayer in rhyme, and I didn't want anyone to know about it because in my writing, like I had bravado in baseball and like all that stuff. Like you had to. I was undersized. I'm playing against guys 6'5", 6'6". They had to look out because I'd punch them in the fucking teeth. Like you know what I mean? I had to play that.
Yeah.
But so with this, it was like I would keep that kind of separate. You know what I mean? From the main, you know, from my world. It's kind of like my armor. I felt. You know, in there. So I didn't want people to really know about it. So I turned it into the school, and it turns out they read it. Like I'm sitting there, and they're like, "We had an anonymous prayer. We want to read this out there." And when I say prayer, and when I talk about, you know, if you were born on, you know, somewhere in the Pacific Isles, or you were born somewhere over there, and this is what you were given, like you might call this universal force something different. And I think one of the biggest things that is hindering our actual growth and evolution is the fact that the actual words that come out of our mouth in, say, an English language is like the way that someone talks about their connection to whatever the force is that created this life is like, it's crazy that so many lives have been lost over that. Because think about it, in plain English, and nor would I ever want to, but we would never be able to really understand completely our thoughts on God or what the next thing is in plain English, knowing each other, knowing we have respect for each other. So how could someone who speaks a totally different language, grew up on another side of the world, how could one person over here in this part of the world tell that person that they're wrong, or oppress them for such, or think that the way that is? So that being said, I just like to always preface that, because what I call source, or what I feel comfort in saying to that, might not be to somebody else, but that can't be a divisive thing.
Right.
That, again, it brings me always back to the inner monologue. Like, you can't hear mine, I can't hear yours. I can't judge your connection to it. I can't judge what pronoun you want to use. I can't judge who you are attracted to. I can't do that. I can have my opinion, but damn it, like, get over yourselves, like that you have the right answer, and listen to someone else and go about your business. Clean your house, like do something else.
Right.
So, you know, I turned that in. They expressed, and they read it to the whole school. So I always kept that with me. I always wrote. I always tried to explore opportunities to do it. Well, when social media came up, well, actually, Facebook came out when I was in school. My friend Michael and I started thehigherplane.net. Now, thehigherplane.net was the Chive and all those things before there was those things we did.
Okay.
We were a lifestyle brand. We had a clothing line. We did concerts. We did one of the first. We booked B.O.B. The rapper B.O.B. We booked B.O.B. right before Nothing on You went number one.
Right.
We were gonna have Mike Posner. We were doing this big show in Youngstown, Ohio. That was the demographic. Posner would have been the guy.
Right.
He couldn't get him. So we're sitting there. I'm like, Nothing on You. I'm like, sounds like skeet. I'm like, book this dude. Boom. Next week goes. Number one, Def Jam, the whole thing. We end up having to backtrack because we did the show. He went number one. He blew us off till, again, the people who were the man in that area brought Snoop Dogg in like 2 weeks later.
Right.
Killed our vibe for when B.O.B. came back. But you know what I mean? But we still did that show. And we would go out in Columbus and interview, just like this, local artists, local people because they didn't have a voice yet. They didn't have a platform. So we let them use the higher plane And we would come interview him. We'd put music videos together. You know, concerts, go cover them. I would interview them. We'd go out there. We didn't have cameras like this. We literally had a camcorder and like bought from Radio Shack those LED lights, and like dudes were standing behind us like holding the lights while we were interviewing. And like I interviewed Jay Electronica. And
you told me about that.
Yeah, and I mean there was 50,000-60,000 views on that video, and it is some real talk between two dudes, like, and to see where he is now, he has not done many interviews. Like Jay Electronica, once he is where he is now, he has not done many interviews. So it's been a really interesting part. So I had a feature column on there, which was highlighting my writing, and putting that out on the regular. Come through a lot of different things, wrote some other stuff. You know, fast forward a bit, have a major crisis happen in my life. Complete and utter just crash. I'm not gonna lie. Anyone who was around me, anyone who sees this, like, I don't care what, you know, I mean, I'm being honest, because, you know, this is the truth. Like, I'm talking crash of all crashes. And not to say there weren't crashes later, but this was a bad one. And this was a time in my life where I didn't really, all this positive and cosmos and all this stuff, I turned my back to it.
Right.
Turn my back to source, turn my back to family, turn my back to everything. I was hurt. I was justified.
Right.
I had the bad things happen to me, so let's do everything.
Right.
I don't deserve it. That's what I'm conditioned. I'm down, I'm low. I this is all deserved. I'm the victim. So, where does that lead you? Not very far.
Yeah, right.
So it was the bottom. And I'm talking bottom, like just one of those places where you wake up in the morning and just, it's devastation. So I was in a place of, I you know, my now wife, you know, came to me and said, I'll go on this journey with you, but you need to do something. You need to do something. You need to do something.
At this time, not to obfuscate, but just to plant a flag, at this time, were you still writing?
I was writing, but not very much.
Okay.
I wasn't working out. I wasn't writing. I wasn't doing the things that I was not equipped with the coping skills to deal with the trauma that hit me in the face.
Gotcha.
And I feel, and why I feel this is an important conversation is because at that point, I could go to the store for a while. I could go do a lot of things to get my mind off it. So if there's anyone who's listening to this who has to deal with things like this right now and who hasn't gone to it, I hope they can hear, you know, what that's possible to. It's never over. Like, no struggle in life is ever over.
Right. You
know what I mean? Like, and I'm the same person I was right now as I was back then at this point. So in that moment of, you want to call it rock bottom, you want to call it whatever it is, it's a choice. I mean, it is. And it's a scary one. Because when you have to make a major decision, like, I need help. I have to go get help. Like, I can't do this, like, anymore. It's a hard realization. And a lot of people never make it, and they die early of alcoholism.
Yeah, I think it's the asking part that really stops that first bit of progress from being made. You know what I'm saying? Like, when people start drinking, it's that asking for help or seeing about getting help or dialing that number or calling that person to help you. Like, that's the hard part.
Well, and
realizing that you got a problem.
And then you have to admit that you're not the king.
Right.
You're not the alpha in your family.
Right.
Like, you're admitting that you need to go see someone else. Like, it's a hard hit to the ego. Like, it's a hard hit to the ego because you just think, like, oh, I could do this. Like, we're justifying all day bad decisions all day. You know what I mean? Like, oh, it's okay. Like, oh, I know there's carcinogens in coffee, but it gets me going. I can't live without it. Like, right. I know that this soda is not good for me, but you know what? Blah, 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 blah. I can do it. You know, I'm going to do it anyways, and it's going to be okay because of these reasons. But
I'm 8 years clean from cigarettes.
That's what I'm saying. It's hard.
Yeah. But no, I wouldn't equate cigarettes to alcoholism.
Oh, but it's probably more addictive than...
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? I know exactly what you mean about that justification, like, you know, oh, fuck it. You know, it's just one. You know, this will be like the first of the
Yeah.
you're always finding a way to justify bad shit.
Always.
Yeah.
And then you almost then like the weird part of your mind almost like shuts that part off, that like realization of like I'm justifying this. It shuts it off, and then you do it again, and then you do it again, and then you do it again, and then 20 years goes by, and they say you have this disease as a result of your action.
Right, lung cancer. Yep.
And I don't know what the lasting effects of my mistakes are going to be. We all don't. You know what I'm saying? But what I'm saying is the whole point of 24 Wrongs is wherever you are right now is a great place to start. Like that's it. You only have the next moment.
You beat me to that, so I was gonna ask like for the tell us about the title. And
well, yeah. So in this moment of rock bottom, without getting into, because one of the things that you don't want to do when you are in recovery is do like the war story things, like I was this, I was so blacked out, I did that.
Right.
Because really it can glorify it to someone or trigger someone who's watching this who might really need to be like, oh yeah, that was fun, or I remember being with Sammy when he did that shit, or like I remember with that, or whatever the case, and then that could veer you off from that moment of like that tunnel vision of like self-preservation, self-worth, what am I going to lose, blah 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 blah, right. And like I have to go forward. So in that moment, you get scared because you're like, I have to make a decision. Like you have to realize, how am I going to pay my bills if I can't work and I have to really go get help? How am I going to tell this to my parents to let them know that all their sacrifices, all of their things that they did to try to give me a thing, like I failed. Like I failed, or your kids or your wife or your friends or your family. You have to admit you fucking failed, and there's nothing you can do.
It's not a good feeling.
It's not a good feeling. It is not a good feeling, especially in such an egocentric world. Like it hurts. And so, making that decision difficult, I went myself. I drove, and I had to go see what the hell was up. Mm-hmm. So I went, and without sparing the details, I don't want to say that part of it because I don't want to I don't want to downplay it. And if someone's seriously considering this, like I don't want that fear to take them away because every experience is unique. Right. This is just mine. When I went in there, and they're like, yeah, we'll take you in here, and I was far away from home, and they were like. It was about 9:30 in the morning, and they're like, all right, come back at 3:45. And I'm like, what? Mm-hmm. Like, it's 9 o'clock. I'm an hour from home. There's a bar on every street.
Right.
Like, what am I going to do for the next however many hours? And I'm like, and I kind of thought when I went to go do this, like, I'll just watch Netflix for a couple days. Like, this will be fine. Like, you know what I mean? Like, whatever, it'll be cool. I'll just take a break. Cards, yeah, I'll be fine. Like,
cool out.
Yeah, it's not. And so, it's not that. And I was in a very interesting state. I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? There's every reason to say, I already told my parents, I already told my family, like, this was already there. Now I have all this time. And I'm like, what am I going to do? So I went to Walgreens. I got water, and like some mints. I sat in my car. I'm like, here it is. Mm-hmm. This is your first test. If you are going to live a different life.
Right.
This is it right now. Screw the program. Screw everything. You have to make this decision today.
Right.
Because you could just say screw it or go in there half-wasted. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and whatever. And just
give yourself another excuse like, okay, since this is the day I'm going last one. Yeah, since this is the day I'm going in.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
And I got to writing. Because I ASMR, autonomous sensory meridian response, is this subculture on YouTube. It's on there that I find a lot of help with because it is, some people have it, some people don't. Like, when it's like, oh, it's peace. People are like, oh, it's peaceful to hear the rain. It's peaceful. They like thunderstorms or they like different sounds or there's like all these different apps that come out there. Like that's a real studied thing, and it's like that feeling of tingles or chills. That's a tactile feeling. That's a real feeling. It's the same sort of feeling almost of like the cigarette or the drink. It hits you right away.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
That ASMR to me and those binaural beats would either help you fall asleep or would help walk me off the edge at times of like wanting to, you know what I mean? So I put those on, the different videos of the affirmations that I had, and I pulled out my notebook and I started to write these rungs. I'm like, because you've heard of steps, like 12 steps and things like that, which is fantastic. And anything that helps people is fantastic. So I started to write. I'm like, I have to get through this. And what's so hard? You look at this ladder, or you have to do something up there. Like that ladder is high. It's hard to climb a ladder. It's easy to climb steps. It's hard to climb a ladder. You need to use both arms, and no one can help you. If you fall, you're hurt.
And it's a bit of a mind fuck too, because if your emotional nuts aren't screwed on tight, you could look down and get wavy in your spirit, and now your whole little project is messed up because you're afraid of falling and dying. Yeah.
And when you fall up steps, nothing happens to the stairs.
Right.
You fall off the ladder, you might fuck the ladder up.
Right.
And so it's like ladder is this life. That goes back to Plato, crab in the bucket. Like, you know what I mean? Like you could be like the perfect shape. You're like, all right, I'm climbing up that bucket. In your little things, and you climb all the way up there, and you got to fight the other crabs who are trying to pull you down. And you get to the top, and like what usually happens? Vanity. I did it. Mama, I made it.
Right.
Whoosh, and you fall back down.
Funny you mentioned that. All right, check it out. So, and for the listeners and the viewers, this is not just an interview. We're homies, so this is more of a talk.
Absolutely. And
so if they're like, "What the fuck is Curtis keep talking?" It's because we can do that.
And we needed this.
Here's the thing. When I was in the Navy, I couldn't swim, but I passed boot camp and everything. I had enough guts to make it. And you're on the ship, and it's really high. And because of like the life of being out to sea and just how it goes on deployment, there's no land. There's there's nobody to save you. You are either gonna make it or you're not. And I made it. I don't have the fear to work over the side. I don't have the fear of doing any evolutions at any speed with just binoculars on, because like I'm in the life, like I'm really about it. In a sense, you know what I'm saying? Yes. I'm a sailor now.
Absolutely.
I've got my sea legs.
Yes.
Now I'm out the military, and years, not too long after me.
Yeah.
I used to live downtown. I go take pictures on top of the parking garage right there on Downer.
Yeah.
And like a curious thing started happening to me. I would get close to like the edge and I started getting like
super anxious.
Like fearfully. And I never suffered with anxiety in any part of my life. And I started like it really started by like, whoa! Like I was getting really like scary, and to try to like combat that, I just started being like a little bit more motivationally aggressive on myself.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like fuck it. That must mean I need to take more pictures up here.
Well, and
that must mean I need to, and right?
Without struggle, there's not going to be any growth.
Yeah.
And I feel that everyone's blaming everything for where we are right now.
Right.
But I mean, a lot of it is just that fear is overtaken.
Right.
The fear of failure and convenience. Like most of our days are easy. We have a pretty cushy lifestyle. Like there's a lot of easy things, so we're not pushed to that edge. We're not at that precipice.
Right.
When you get close to the edge, and you kind of see that, oh man, that's the realization, because we spend so much time in a virtual world.
Yeah, dumb shit. Instagram, we cooling out. Yeah, right.
But when you get to the edge and you realize that physical kind of ramification of what's going on, it's like, damn, that shoves reality in your face.
That's what it.
It really does.
That's what was going on with it.
And I think through those moments, but when people are saying, well, I can't talk to source, there's nothing else out there. Those moments of sometimes fear and anxiety might be the moment you're getting that knowledge drop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like that might be that knowledge drop.
I kept going. I kept like, I made it it is a thing for me. I take pictures. Anybody who knows me knows like, that's my spot.
And you take good pictures too.
Oh yeah, thank you. So like I just kept doubling down, like I don't care.
Well, and it's the lasting impression, because you brought that story in this conversation. So in my opinion, that is that part that created the universe, like showing itself to us here in the non-physical.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because that's going to motivate me to the next time I get a little fear. Like that same fear you get, I get in one of my teeth.
Yeah.
Like I feel when I'm like, okay, like I get that feeling.
Yeah.
But maybe that's part of that like extrasensory perception that we had at one point as humans that might have been, either evolved out or targeted.
Yeah, it was keeping me up at night.
Yep.
Because I was thinking like, the situations that I was in were way more dangerous than me snapping a picture.
Yep.
Right? Like there was I had more control over myself now here taking this picture on top of this parking garage than I did hanging over the side of a ship in the bosun's chair. Well, drunk from a night in Mexico, for God's sakes. You know, like this.
Absolutely.
So why am I so skittish now? What's going on? And that, but
I think that is, and it's a study that I did a while ago. I think because there's different settings in our brain, and I think that's what the interesting part of once these people get over world domination and all this other stuff, and we can start to really get into the things that matter of human evolution, and these ideas is like what part does this play? Like there's state to state, there's all these different things, there's different mindsets. And so as an athlete, I was very lucky to have some trainers early that we started to do self-hypnosis and mental training and visualization before it was trendy. This was early, so that hit me to this a long time ago. So there's different brain states. Like when you're sitting there and you're watching a movie and you're really into this movie, that tricks you into a different brain state. Like the flicker rate on the TV gets you into a thing, but also that flow. Now there's the positive of the flow, and I read this book on this Russian scientist, and it was literally called Flow, that certain people is born with. When you were in the military, I'm sure there were times you did shit and you turned to damn, how did I do that? How, you know what I mean? There were times I made plays at third and get up and do some crazy shit. And I'm like, how the fuck did I do that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? How did I do that? Or how did I, adjust to that off speed pitch, low and away, and drive?
Yeah.
And I think, so that's that flow. So
I'm an artist too, so that's it's mostly in my life. It's mostly manifested itself in drawing and creating.
There you go.
How did I draw that?
There you go.
That giraffe beatboxing, right?
Right. But what do? We think of it as coincidence and we kind of move on. And in the course of our 24 hours, we spend little times on it. That's why I enjoy conversations with you, because what is the most? Hey, how's it going? Oh yeah, cold today. All right, have a good day.
Oh yeah.
Surface. And that's not what enriches us.
No, it's not. And that's not how our conversations grew out in the first place.
No.
I mean, we never made small talk.
Yeah, and to bring everybody up, kind of to full speed here, how we met, it was, it was a roundabout way to do it, but I'm grateful for it. I'm sure we'll talk about that, but back to bring us to present, with where the book is and why I did it. So in those moments, I wrote a fair amount of the rungs.
You were sitting in your car.
I'm sitting in my car, listening to these things. I go through it fine. I'm not completed. I didn't finish all 24. And I'm able to last the time. I'm able to make time when I found a park to wait out that time to go in.
Right.
To start this big change. So, okay, we think hopefully this is where the story goes to being oh, then I went through this program and it was awesome and here we are today. I have a published book. Not so much. Right. So you go through this first part of this part of this help, and it is a very scary part.
Right.
And you're in there, and I was actually going to go somewhere and stay for a bit of time. I was going to go to
on the lamb.
No,
from the place.
No, I was going to once I got through the first 5 days.
Okay.
I was going to go and be in a facility.
Okay.
Because this is where I need to be, and it's vulnerable. It's hard to talk about, and people who see this it is. But I don't care, because this is authentic, and it might be working out too much or eating bad food or too much drinking that someone sees this and realize it's a real thing and it's a struggle, and I will tell you about it. The struggles I went through, and be vulnerable and deal with people who may judge me, but I went there because I'm this is too bad. So went through the first part of it, first 5 days. It was fucking wild. And then I got out and I went to the place that I was going to be for probably 30 days.
Okay.
And I'm okay. And I'm there. When I got there, and I'm like, all right, I can see this. And they're like, there's a little something with the insurance, but you know what? They never deny people. You're going to be fine. You're gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine. Don't worry about it. Day goes by. I'm like, this is good. I get it. Like, this is gonna be a thing. I'm gonna be able to do this.
You're enjoying the place.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm like, this is gonna be great. Next day, okay. I'm like, man, I'm cooking. That afternoon, actually, sorry, insurance said no.
Damn.
I'm like, what? Insurance said no. I said, what does that mean? You're gonna have to pack up and go. All the vulnerability, all the conversations, going through it, writing, starting to write, sitting for all those hours, going to a place, dealing with this embarrassment. Sorry, Sam. See ya. I'm now in my car.
An hour away from home.
Yep. My wife, well, she wasn't my wife then, but she doesn't know. No one knows. They think I'm here.
Right.
And I didn't handle it well.
Right.
I went MIA for a good while. I did not know this. I said, this is it. And it came right back. All the justifications to go to a bar.
Right.
All the justifications to turn this off. But you know what? I said no. Because they did say I could go and I would just have to have an inpatient. I wouldn't be able to go and stay somewhere. I would have to do this. I could still do a program. Insurance would cover it. But I would have to go back to the real world and do it and drive every day an hour to this place to do it. All day.
Aha. Okay. Insurance would cover that.
And they would do that.
Okay.
So my wife found me. Because I didn't know what I was going to do. She came and found me. And she took me and she said she would be there for me. And we went on this journey. And so in the rest of that process, I wrote. I'm like, man, the hardest part of this was because once you get help, once you go, there's plenty of places that'll help you once you make that decision. There's not a lot before you make the decision.
Right.
So this book itself that I wrote is for those moments of terror. For that person who's 15, 20 years sober, who is now finds themselves not able to go to their meeting, who's not able to go to the gym, who's not able to take their walk, who can't go see that friend that's been their sponsor for all these years.
Right.
So I wrote it. When you're a nobody, no one, hey, here's a book deal, right? Hey,
right.
Here's we're here. Don't worry about providing for your family. We're gonna back you as an author. No one does that.
Doesn't work like that.
Doesn't work like that. So what I did was realized there was gonna have to be an investment in myself. Sent my manuscript off to publishers, and one took it, and they had the best kind of like deal. And really, that process, now you can purchase the book itself on Amazon, Walmart.com, Target.com, really anywhere books are sold. But from an income standpoint, that's you pay a good amount for that.
Right.
So with the audiobook, once I'm like, this is a way that I can really touch people. It's people aren't really reading as much. This is a way that can be done. And if I can layer this with
your reach is larger with an audiobook as opposed to
the written word, because it's something that people can carry with them.
Word up.
It's something that they can have in the moment of terror. That's not like I have to go. People got their earbuds in all day anyways, and a lot of people have Audible subscriptions, or they have iTunes or they have Apple Music, so you can get this and you can go through it. So it's from zero. It was here in Aurora, Gremlin Studios. Shout outs to Gremlin Studios. Jeremy Colross. I mean, like,
word up.
I mean, Gremlin Studios had such a wonderful process for this. For me, I told them my ideas. I told them what I had to do. They kind of put that out to their engineers, and to find someone who wanted to take this project on. And it wasn't their most expensive guy. It wasn't their most expensive room.
Right.
When we talked, and Jeremy and I talked, and we met during this pandemic safely. We did this during it. And we layered this with binaural beats, healing megahertz behind it, and ASMR sounds that when you really get into it, you will get that tactile feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So you can, I feel that the goal of this for anyone is like to replenish that accomplishment center. You might have lost your job. You might be in a K-hole of drugs and alcohol, or
Right.
unsafe sexual practices, or just things that are unsafe for you that could have devastating effects. There's not a lot of places to turn or places to go. Everything's kind of virtual, and you can't always have a counselor.
Right.
So you can take this book, and you can listen to it, and you can do two things. You can get a feeling that you would get from a cigarette or a drink or a drug or something. You can actually get it. You will feel something from this. It's a real thing to feel. And then what you'll also gather is the accomplishment factor, the macrocosm of conquering an addiction, or losing 40, 50 pounds, or that is so big. And when you're inside and you're feeling the effects of these negative habits, like, your resolve to jump out of bed and go run 10 miles is small.
Right.
So you don't have that accomplishment factor. Then it's like all these things happen to you. You can then say, all right, it could take you 24 minutes, it could take you 24 hours, it could take you 24 days. You just listen to this.
Right.
Listen to the words. Listen to the way that the rhymes are. Listen to the sounds behind it. Accomplish it. Finish it. Finish 24 rungs. Climb 24 rungs on a ladder. Get that started and realize you're worth saving. Like, the person who's listening to this right now, or I say this on my TikTok, or where I'm like, you might be that person who swore up and down on New Year's, you're never having another cigarette. I've been there. You're never having another drink. I've been there. I'm never doing this again. I've been there, and you fucking fail. Well, in the next moment, you feel worse than you ever felt in your life. But what I'm saying to you is like, if you fail, if you relapse, if you go there, in that next moment that you realize that you failed, that you realize that you relapsed, and in that exact moment, you say, I'm not going to do this again, you won. You back on it again. You're back on the fucking horse, or off the horse. I don't know how that whole fucking saying works.
No, you back on. No, you had it right.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like you're back on it. And it's not about hype. It's not about trying to make money off a book. It's not about trying to be someone. It's the fact that, like, this is my worth. You're worth saving.
So I think this is a great place to talk about the beginnings of us interacting. So you're working at a company.
Yeah.
We'll call it a company. The book is written, but now you're just, and I don't mean this in a pejorative fashion. Yeah. Now you're just working. You're a working guy.
That's right.
You're a working guy with a published book.
That's right.
I'm a working guy who's writing a book. We don't know each other at this time.
Yeah.
Then COVID comes along. What was life like for you in the professional sense, the working sense, when COVID came along? How did that interrupt your flow of life and everything? And then how did we go about meeting?
Yeah, I mean, it was a major, major change. I mean, I was in sales and marketing.
Right.
And a lot of face-to-face,
right.
business-to-business meetings. And that's what I had come from, and it had to drastically change. At the company I was at, community relations, is important. There was so much growth happening in Aurora. Then all of a sudden, like, we're killing it. I mean, like, I'm out there, I'm going to all these different places, I'm building all these contacts. Boom. Can't go anywhere.
Right.
Can't go anywhere. So, we've always known about Skype and FaceTime and everything. And so I got the idea, since there was, a lot of movement with the Chamber of Commerce, here in Aurora, let's do something virtual.
Right.
So I was running, like, our social media, and I just said, like, anyone in Aurora that's got ideas, like, we can't be stagnant. We can't let the momentum go.
Right.
And so I started these weekly Zoom meetings to just really anybody,
right.
To come out there and say, like, what can we do? And, our initial thoughts were some sort of events or things that were social distance in mind, and then, damn, things changed.
Right. Drastically.
Yeah.
I mean, when we started talking, so basically you reached out to an organization I'm part of.
Yep.
And I remember, I'll never forget, I get the notification like, what the hell is this? Because it had, I went on the page and looked and saw, so it's a local place,
yep.
a local business, and I'm like, okay. And I started taking part in the Zoom calls and everything. And at that time, to your point, there was the possibility that life could, quote unquote, come back to normal,
like quickly.
Right, like, oh, maybe this will end in a month, and then
the 15 day to stop the.
When 15 days are up, then we're
gonna go back
to normal. Yeah, then the 15 turn to 30, and then yada yada. And during this time, I don't have a job.
Yep.
I'm unemployed. I'm freshly unemployed. I'm waking up every morning like I'm just an early bird anyway, so I'm 5:45. I'm up regardless. But now I'm up with no job to go to, and my wheels are spinning and shit like that. And I'm not a good person. You know, I'm an action junkie. I'm not a good person with no.
Yeah, idle hands don't work for me either.
No.
Yep.
No. Not. It's not good. So I'm not like in a great place. And the only really outlet I have at this time is taking part in these Zoom calls with people who are at least motivated enough to keep kicking the can around until we come up with something. And we were thinking about creating like something for people. The idea was to create something that people can take part in.
Yep.
It was to create something that was going to last. We'll like maybe we'll have buses take seniors and bring them down, and we'll have popcorn, and there will be a petting zoo, and we'll be socially distanced. It was we were gonna do some big shit.
Yes, we were.
But it never formulated because life kept us cooped up. And then the second largest city's first daily, then I came with this idea. But in between this, you had written a book, and I was picking your brain about the writing process.
Yep.
And I really was fascinated that, like, I was able to contact a person who had done what I was trying to do. You're the first writer I ever, like, could physically touch and reach out to and start chopping it up with. And that was really very inspiring for me. So I started writing more. And when I was writing, I had the idea of creating a podcast or a show before that.
Mm-hmm.
But then I thought, well, wait a minute. Maybe I can launch that now. And I started the recordings in the bathroom and all that kind of stuff. And you were the first person when we talked episode 1, episode 2, episode 3 from the very beginning. It was me and you.
Yep.
And remember the flow? I would do the news for like 30 minutes.
Right.
Read whatever the headline was. You call in at 8:30, and from 8:30 to 9, we chop it.
We chop it up. Talk about cosmic and positive vibes.
That's how the whole thing.
How to.
Yep. We got Arthur on the lines.
Let's do it. And what we say.
Yeah.
Put content out.
Yeah.
People are consuming content like water.
Exactly.
You know?
But the thing too that I think, that I would like to highlight is that I got what 24 rungs meant without suffering from drinking.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to suffer from alcoholism or drug addiction or gambling. You don't have to suffer from a specific vice to be somewhere bad and try to take yourself out of that. It's one size fits all.
It's true.
So when I saw that 24 rungs, a journey, I knew what it was calling for. And I was like, because Good Morning Aurora is making me happy.
Yeah.
I had found that by the third day, I had found that which was calming me and making me have nice days again. Like, I found it. And it was not with me, it was with other people.
Yeah. Oh, that touches my heart because I think that's wealth, in my opinion. I think that's where, like, the win-wins come from. And that's where, whoever makes it through all of this, like, that's what's going to, bring the new age, nuevo renaissance. I've been talking about it forever.
Right.
Back in the day, that's when the Renaissance period happened. Wasn't it after the plague? Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, that's where you're going to see, and that's what gives me the chills. And that's why I continue to write. And that's why, like, it's so important, the work that you're doing with Good Morning Aurora. Like, the people you interview, the stuff that we talked about from the beginning. You know what I mean? Like,
Day one. That was the whole plot.
The point.
That's the whole plot. The plot. It's not us.
Nope.
It's you.
That's right. And that's the true nature, because then you can see, Like, unity is possible. We can all coexist. It's going to be a shit show, but at some point we will exist. I don't feel that evil is going to win. You know, I don't feel divisiveness is going to ultimately win. You know, I can't see that happening. Like, otherwise, what's the point of all this? You know what I mean? Like, if we don't find a way, and this is an example of it. Like, we're in a place. We were on the phone, Zoom, trying to figure it out, like trying to move media, like, you know, recording it to the computer and then sending it to you. Like, I recorded the one interview in Treadwell. Like, in Treadwell, like coffee, like, you know what I mean? With this old MacBook, like, you know, trying to do it. Because that, there has to be stewards, and that human spirit's important. Like, that which drives us is so important. And one of the things I always say is, like, evil and good are, like, essentially the same. Like, they're like energies, but different sides of the game. You know what I mean? Like, they're very similar, and I think that's, you know, really that yin and yang idea, that finding that balance, and that's where my contribution to that, more of just words and conversations, late night conversations, like, you know, them times, like, you know, where it's like, here's my actual contribution to that. Like, here is a coping skill, because what helps me the most. And I struggle all the time, every single day, and I make the wrong decisions. Like, just ask my wife, you know what I mean? Like, you know, like, she'll tell you, you know. But all kidding aside, like, you know, if it wasn't for her, I don't think I'm here sitting in this conversation with you guys. But, you know, what it comes down to is that, you know, the fight is worth it. You know, the fight to press on is worth it. It is. And so, if I'm in that understanding and I have a coping skill, I take away the excuses. Like, so right now, anyone who is saying, like, screw that, like, Sammy's full of it, like, you know what I mean, like, that's all bullshit, you know, blah, 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 like, fine. But you don't have an excuse anymore, because that coping skill you said you didn't have, like, I'm giving you one. And if you don't have any money and you can't buy it, I'll send you a free one. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you can't buy it, I'll send you a free one. I have free audiobooks I can send you. Because the whole thing is like, it's for that person to stop that rate of relapse that's going up so high. Like, you might not be able to get outside, but throw your earbuds on, go in the bathroom, go in the corner, go in the basement. You can throw this on. Forget my voice, forget it's me. Listen to the beats behind me. Get lost for a couple seconds. Feel it. Feel that vibe go up your spine, that ASMR feeling. Or find somebody else. Find another binaural beat. Find a coping skill that gives you what you want. Because what I learned, so to kind of go back to the process of this book, when I was in this program, there was it was a lot of lectures and it was great information, but it was a lot of this, like sitting. Yeah. And again, like, I don't like to sit. You know what I mean? I don't like this. I want to move. I want to get going. But there was expressive therapy. And that expressive therapy is what I got the most of, which was like being creative. And that's where, like, a lot of rhymes started coming out. So through this whole process of this, towards the end, the writings that some are in 24 Rungs were in those expressive therapy classes. At the end, I found there was another gentleman that was in my small group. He was a symphony cellist, and Stephen, and he and I were asked to kind of perform at the graduation of our, like, program. Yeah. And so he played this bass, and I used the spoken word to, you know, that was, we had to do a final project, like, kind of in a way, to, like, your last thing, and that was what it was this process. So that's what led me further to say, okay, this might be able to help. It helped other people in our small group. It helped people here. It hasn't yielded me anything. Like, I have to provide in other ways. Like, this is not what I'm out here doing. I'm out here for literally saying, don't make an excuse. There's a coping skill. You might not like my coping skill, but there's one. Get it. If you have Audible, you can use the credit. You need one for free, hit us up. We'll give it to you. You know what I mean? But it's just like, if today's that day, you're like, man, I'm gonna die that cig out. I'm gonna put that drink down. Like, I'm not eating that piece of cake at 11:45 at night before I go to bed. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm not saying you have to. Like, you might need that. Like, but I'm saying, if there's something you know and you're not supposed to be doing and you're doing it too much, here's something that takes one excuse out of the way. Because then you can or, you know, and one of the things that I think plagues us as men, and what's is all over the social media, you know, is some of the porn and stuff that's out there. And this is another thing that could take us off that, because, like, I like social media, I like it, but there's some freaking filth on some of these things. Like, it is not good.
Right.
And it's not good for our youth, and it's not good for these young girls that have to feel like, and these young boys that feel that they have to fit this thing, or they have to do these dirty trends on TikTok and stuff. Like, that's little kids. Like, you shouldn't be doing that shit on there.
Yeah, man, I got a bunch of iPhones, right?
Yeah.
And like one of them, you know, my son loves like Godzilla and dinosaurs and all this, and I got like an small iPhone 5, so he goes play with the neighborhood kids or whatever. I give him the phone, so he knows what time it is, come back home. But he also like he can scroll on like one of my Instagrams and like and follow the pages that, but I can't have him do it. Why? Because like even somewhere in your scrolling in one of your swipes, there will be some kind of shit.
I know.
Some kind of wild shit. You know, you can't type in Marvel Comics.
I know.
You get cosplay.
Well, and then
all kinds of, you know, I mean, not that it's horrible, but the door is open.
And then you have scammers that come in there, and then they're doing that to I don't know why, but they are doing that. I mean, and you have to watch it. So that's like, you know, if people are on TikTok, I'm 24 rungs ASMR on there, and that's what I do on there. I'm like, like, if you can stop scrolling and see all this stuff, or you're on here for nefarious reasons, here's my voice of like, you're worth it. Don't do it.
I gotta get some TikTok tips from
you. Yeah, man. And honestly, someone, and I was like, I mean, I was not like all about it, and I'm not a hype on there at all. Like, I'm not following people. I don't follow on there. Like, you know, I simply put this out as just like my contribution to this stuff that's going on in the world. And it's like, you know, while you're scrolling, like, just to be mindful, because we're not listening. We're not, you know, we're not connecting that third eye, if you will. We're not connecting to that higher self that's there for us, and it'll save us from this fear. So, you know, that's you know, that's my goal. Like, I tell you what, like, it's not to save the world. It's not to save just, you know, people say, you just want to save one person. I can't save anybody. I can't save anybody. You can't save anybody. No one could save me. You know, I'm still there. I'm still there today as I was back then, and I have to. But I have less excuses now. I have less excuses to turn to these things that make me have bad behaviors, that doesn't make me my best self. You know.
The show ends on a positive note.
Yeah.
What's your message today?
Yeah.
For the listeners, the viewers, and the people of Aurora?
Well, I tell you, my thing is you can only hold one thought at a time. There is only one thought you can hold at a moment. It's time. You can't hold more than one thought. And in that thought, you have a choice. You have a choice every single thought. That universal truth will be forever. If that's our gift that we were given with human consciousness, is that, hey, you can really choose every single thought. Then finding a way to not let the speed of life overtake your moments. If you're a baseball player, like I'm a baseball player, baseball coach, the moment of contact, when you actually make contact, is an enigma to so many hitters, because they can't wrap their head around being present in that quick moment.
Right.
And that's that quick moment of taking a shot or smoking a cig. Like, you're not present in that moment to the detriment of it. Like, back to what, you know, from 2020 to 2021, like, you only have this day once. And so I'm not going to tell you to stay positive. You might not need to be positive. Like, it's not all sunshines and rainbows. Like, you know, all the glitter is not gold. But what I'm saying is that focus on universal laws, universal truths, things that ring true in your belly. Like, if something doesn't seem right, it's not that. If you're struggling with addiction, or you're struggling with the motivation to get up and find a way, like, you could do it. Like, nothing in my pink statements, nothing in my, you know, upbringing will lead me to have a published book, or to try to promote, you know, or try to be an author as a career. Nothing would do that. I'm not even really there yet. You know what I'm saying? To a point of, I believe I will, and I'm going to continue to push for that, because that's my unique goal. But the pie is big enough. When you look to see that person, because the hardest thing I'm seeing is the envy. People are on these social media sites, and they see someone with a new house, they want a new house. They see someone who's taking pictures of what they get, oh, we're not happy like that. That envy has to be taken down. And the sanctity of human life has been completely dampened, in my opinion. Like, people are looking at other people like as less than they are, or more than they are, or that they're better. Like, stop. You know what I'm saying? If you could see from that higher self, that third eye, that person inside you. Like I knew it through the Zoom when I met you. Like I knew that aura, that light is so strong. You know what I mean? Like that transcends what I can see in this physical world. And so when we open ourselves up to the transcendental nature of energy, and that once energy is created, it's never destroyed, then you are able to accomplish anything in the world. And we're showing it as on this base level of alchemy of like, hey, we had an idea, now you have a sweatshirt with Good Morning Aurora on it. Like we're in a space. This was just an idea. This was you and me talking, trying to, figure out what's going on in our own lives. And we're here manifesting. Like you can literally type in 24 wrongs in Google and you're going to see a ton of things. You know what I mean? And that was from nothing. And that's not like great, like puffing my chest. No, it's just that whatever.
Right.
What's yours? Are you a painter? Are you a sculptor? Are you a musician? Are you really good at math? What is your talent? Don't give up. This is the time. This is the time. It's the rebirth. Ascension of humanity is happening. Like the earth is going up. The vibration level is high. And that's why you're seeing so much negativity, because people can't handle the new energy.
Right.
And if you can handle that new energy, and you can find some peace and solitude, and be okay with yourself, and you're in a monologue, you are the mustard seed that can move the mountain,
Thank you for coming on to the show and having an interview with us, brother.
It is my pleasure. The sky's the limit, man.
There will be a part 2.
That's right.
On behalf of Good Morning Aurora, we'd like to say thank you to our brother Salvatore Hall for coming on. We appreciate him. Much success with 24 Rungs. Check it out on Amazon.
Audible, iTunes, Target.com, Walmart.com. Really anywhere books are sold. Check me out on TikTok, ASMR, or 24 Rungs, ASMR.
Right.
And be your best.
And on the gram too, y'all. On the gram too. That's on behalf of the second largest city's first daily news podcast and 24 Rungs, we hope that you guys all have a blessed, satisfied, strong, and dedicated, and motivated, positive day. Peace. We out. Bleh.